He wasn't supposed to be the one. Rob Chen was supposed to oversee the dig, check the concrete foundation, and make sure the crew had the site prepped for Monday's pour. That was the job. That was the plan. But when the excavator blade struck metal 3 feet down and uncovered a rusted cylinder with German markings stamped into corroded steel, the plan changed fast. Police arrived. Bomb squad got called. EOD specialists from Fort Dix were 2 hours out, and the evacuation order went block by block, every house, every apartment, everyone out. Except Mrs. Peterson. 3rd floor, no elevator, wheelchair-bound, family out of state, and the building's super had already fled. The police lieutenant looked at Rob and said, "We can't wait 2 hours. Can you help her down?" Rob stared at the crater where his crew had been digging, at the 500-pound unexploded bomb sitting in the mud like a sleeping predator. He looked at the apartment building, 200 yards away. And then he said 5 words that changed everything. "Get her out first. Then I'll handle it," because 32 years ago, Rob Chen wasn't a construction foreman. He was Sergeant First Class Robert Chen, U.S. Army Combat Engineer. Explosive Ordnance Disposal certified. The guy who cleared IEDs in Iraq, disarmed landmines in Kuwait, and taught younger soldiers how to tell the difference between a bomb that might blow and a bomb that would. Today, he'd have to remember, it was 9:30 a.m. on a Tuesday in South Philadelphia, and the October air was crisp enough to see your breath. The construction site sat on a half-acre lot where an old textile factory had been demolished 6 months earlier. Now it was going to be condos, 12 units, 3 stories, stainless appliances, and a rooftop deck. Rob Chen, 56 years old, stood at the edge of the excavation pit, wearing a dusty Carhartt jacket, steel-toed boots, and a hard hat, with Foreman stenciled across the front. He was compact and solid, with graying hair buzzed military short, and hands scarred from decades of construction work. His crew, 8 guys, mostly local union labor, had been excavating the foundation when Tommy, the excavator operator, hit something that didn't sound like rock. "Boss, we got something weird here," Tommy called from the cab. Rob walked over, looked into the pit, and felt his stomach tighten. Partially exposed in the dirt was a cylindrical object, about 4 feet long, 18 inches in diameter. Rust brown with flaking paint, and stamped into the metal, barely visible under the corrosion, were faded German characters. Rob knew exactly what he was looking at. "Everyone off the site. Now." His voice was calm, but absolute. "What is it?" one of the younger guys asked. "Unexploded ordnance. World War II era. German manufacture. Probably dropped during a raid that missed the Navy Yard." Rob pulled out his phone. "Call 911. Tell them we've got UXO. Then get every piece of equipment away from this hole." Within 20 minutes, the site was swarming. Police cruisers blocked both ends of the street. Fire trucks staged 2 blocks away, and a bomb squad van pulled up, with 2 technicians in tactical gear. The squad leader, a wiry guy in his 40s named Lieutenant Vasquez, crouched at the edge of the pit and whistled low. "That's a SC-500, 500-kilogram general-purpose bomb. Germans dropped thousands of these during the war." He stood up, brushing dirt off his gloves. "This one's been sitting here for 80 years. Could be stable. Could be a hair trigger." "What's the call?" Rob asked. "We evacuate a quarter-mile radius and wait for the Army EOD team from Fort Dix. They've got the training and equipment for this." "How long?" 2 hours, maybe 3 with traffic." Vasquez turned to the police captain coordinating the evacuation. "We need everyone out. Every building, every residence within a quarter mile." The evacuation started immediately. Officers went door to door, Families poured onto the sidewalks with kids, pets, and hastily grabbed belongings. Sirens echoed. News helicopters circled overhead. Rob stood near the police barricade, watching the chaos, when he heard shouting from across the street. A uniformed officer was arguing with someone in the doorway of a narrow 3-story brick building. Rob walked over. "Ma'am, you need to evacuate. This is mandatory." The voice from inside was elderly, shaky. "I can't just leave. I'm in a wheelchair. There's no elevator. My son's in Pittsburgh. He can't get here for hours." The officer looked helpless. "Ma'am, we can help you down the stairs, but you need to come now." Rob stepped forward. "I'll help." The officer looked relieved. "Thank you." Inside, the building smelled like old wood and mothballs. The staircase was narrow and steep. On the 3rd floor, Rob found her. Mrs. Peterson was 83, white-haired, wrapped in a knit shawl, sitting in a manual wheelchair in her small living room. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the armrests. "I don't want to be a burden," she said quietly. Rob knelt beside her. "You're not a burden, ma'am. We're going to get you out safe. My name's Rob. I'm going to carry you down, okay?" She nodded, eyes wet. Rob lifted her carefully, she weighed maybe 90 pounds, and carried her down 3 flights of stairs while the officer followed with the wheelchair. Outside, an ambulance was waiting. They got her settled, wrapped in blankets, and drove her to the staging area 6 blocks away. Rob walked back toward the site. Vasquez met him at the barricade. "Army EOD just called. They're stuck in traffic on I-95. Accident. They're saying 4 hours now, maybe 5. Rob's jaw tightened. That bomb's been sitting in wet soil for 80 years. The longer it sits exposed, the more unstable it gets. "I know, but we don't have a choice. We wait." Rob looked at the pit, then at the row of evacuated buildings, then back at Vasquez. "What if we don't wait?" Vasquez frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I'm EOD certified. Army Combat Engineer, 89 to 2006. I've cleared ordnance older and more unstable than this." Vasquez stared at him. "You're a construction foreman." "Now. But I did 17 years disarming bombs before I ever picked up a hammer." Rob pulled out his wallet and handed over a faded military ID card. "Master Sergeant Robert Chen, U.S. Army, EOD qualified." Vasquez studied it, then looked at Rob. "When's the last time you did this?" 2006, but you don't forget how." "This isn't an IED in a sandbox. This is a 500-kilo bomb in the middle of a neighborhood." "I know what it is." Rob's voice was steady. "And I know if we wait 5 hours, that thing could shift. The fuse could activate, or someone could ignore the barricade and set it off. I can make it safe, or at least safer, enough to move it." Vasquez looked at the pit, then at his watch, then back at Rob. "If you screw this up, you'll take out half the block." "If I don't try, it might do that anyway." Vasquez exhaled slowly. Then he keyed his radio. "Captain, I need authorization for a civilian EOD intervention." 10 minutes later, Rob was gearing up. The bomb squad lent him a blast suit. Not that it would do much against 500 kilograms of high explosive, but protocol was protocol. He also grabbed a small toolkit, wire cutters, pliers, a flashlight, a manual fuse wrench from the 40s that the bomb squad kept for historical ordnance, and a can of WD-40. "You sure about this?" Vasquez asked. Rob cinched the straps on the suit. "No, but someone has to be." He walked to the edge of the pit and climbed down. The bomb lay half buried in the mud, nose down, tail fins exposed. Rust covered most of the surface, but the fuse housing was visible near the tail, a cylindrical cap with a threaded collar. Rob knelt beside it, slowly, carefully. His hands didn't shake. Muscle memory took over. First rule, assess the fuse type. He wiped away mud with a rag and shone his flashlight on the markings. A ZID-15, he muttered. Delayed action. Mechanical clockwork fuse. That was both good and bad. Good because it meant the bomb hadn't detonated on impact. It was designed to penetrate before exploding. Bad because 80 years of corrosion meant the clockwork could be jammed, or worse, still ticking. Rob leaned closer, listening. Silence. He let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Second rule, stabilize before you touch. Rob packed sandbags around the bomb's body to prevent it from shifting. Then he cleared mud away from the fuse housing, exposing the threads. The collar was rusted solid. He sprayed WD-40 into the seams and waited. 60 seconds. Then he fitted the fuse wrench, an old-school tool that looked like a giant socket wrench, onto the collar. He applied pressure. Slowly. Steadily. The collar didn't budge. Rob shifted his grip, braced his weight, and tried again. A faint grinding sound. Metal on metal. The threads were moving. He kept turning, quarter inch at a time. Sweat dripped down his face despite the cold. Finally, the collar loosened. Rob unscrewed it by hand and lifted it free. Inside the fuse housing was the detonator, a small cylindrical mechanism with a spring-loaded striker and primer charge. Corroded, but intact. Rob exhaled slowly. Third rule, remove the detonator without triggering the striker. This was the delicate part. One slip, one vibration, and the striker could hit the primer. Rob pulled a pair of needle-nose pliers from his kit. He gripped the detonator's base, applied steady upward pressure, and twisted gently. The detonator shifted. Rob's heart pounded in his ears, but his hands stayed steady. He twisted again. The threads gave. The detonator came free. Rob set it carefully in a blast-proof container the bomb squad had provided, then sat back on his heels. The bomb was inert now. No fuse, no detonator. Just 500 kilograms of old explosives that wouldn't detonate without a trigger. Rob climbed out of the pit. Vasquez was waiting at the top, pale but steady. It's safe. Rob nodded. Safe enough to move. The Army can handle disposal when they get here. Vasquez clapped him on the shoulder. You just saved a lot of lives, man. Rob pulled off the blast suit, hands shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. Just doing what I was trained to do. By the time the Army EOD team arrived, the bomb had been carefully excavated and loaded onto a flatbed truck for transport to a disposal site. The evacuation order was lifted. Families returned to their homes. Mrs. Peterson's son called Rob personally to thank him. The mayor's office sent a commendation letter. Local news ran a story. Construction foreman turned hero. Disarms World War II bomb. Rob didn't do interviews. He went back to work the next day, pouring concrete like nothing had happened. But 3 weeks later, he got a visit. A black sedan pulled up to the site. 2 men in Army uniforms stepped out. One was a colonel with an EOD badge on his chest. Master Sergeant Chen? Rob set down his clipboard. It's just Rob now, sir. The colonel smiled. Not according to your file. You were one of the best EOD techs we had. 17 years. 237 successful disposals. 0 casualties. That was a long time ago. Skills like that don't expire. The colonel handed him a card. We're expanding the civilian EOD training program. We need experienced instructors. People who've been in the field. People like you. Rob looked at the card, then at the construction site, then back at the colonel. I'm happy where I am. I understand, but if you ever want to teach the next generation, How to do what you did last month. We'd be honored to have you. Rob pocketed the card. I'll think about it. That night, Rob sat in his small apartment in northeast Philly, staring at an old photo on his bookshelf. Him in desert fatigues, 20 years younger, standing beside a Humvee in Iraq. A lifetime ago. He thought about the bomb, about Mrs. Peterson, about the neighborhood that didn't blow up because he remembered how. And he thought about all the young soldiers still doing the job he used to do. The ones who'd benefit from someone who'd been there, done that, and lived to teach it. The next morning, Rob called the number on the card. Not everyone who walks away from the uniform stops serving. Not everyone who retires stops being a soldier. And not everyone who disarms a bomb does it for glory. Some do it because when the call comes, they're still the only one who knows how. Rob Chen didn't need recognition. He didn't need medals. He'd had enough of those. He just needed to know that when 80 years of rust and corrosion sat 200 yards from innocent people, someone still remembered how to make it safe. And he always would. So I'll ask you, have you ever had to use skills you thought you'd left behind? Have you ever been the only person in the room who knew what to do? Tell us in the comments. Share the moment you became the answer. Subscribe to the Human Stories, because we believe the best heroes are the ones who never wanted to be. Thank you for watching. And remember, some training never expires. It just waits for the moment it's needed most.